Hello everyone. In the last video, we have seen how to write our first Selenium WebDriver program. So if you look at, we have initialized the Chrome driver and then we have accessed the URL, whichever the URL you wanted to work with. I have taken Facebook as an example. Let us say if I open this, let me open that Facebook and then see here, whatever the step we have done manually, now we did using automation, using a script called first Selenium script. Let me run it with the program. So how do you run it? You will go to that class, right click, and then run as Java application. This is one way of running it, or else simply you can select the class and then you will have an option here, run first Selenium script. Click on that and automatically you will be able to see the Facebook application launching. So it will open the browser and then it will launch the Facebook application. So this is how you will launch. Now in this session, I will explain you what is the purpose of automation first. So let us say if I have to tell you automation first, you need to understand what is manual testing and what is automation testing. First, you need to understand the difference between manual testing and automation testing. To make it very simple, I am taking the same example as Facebook. And if I have to test one test case, let us say my test case is like this. So the test case is, you will have test case steps. What is the first step? Open the Facebook application. This is my first step. And second one, enter valid user ID. Let us say Facebook, you will have email ID. I can write enter valid user ID or valid email ID. And then third step, enter valid password. And then last one, click on login or sign in button, whatever it is. So here it is login. So you can say login button. So then once you are done with, you will have expected results, right? So what would be the expected result? Home page of the user should be displayed. What does it mean? The user must be able to log into his Facebook account. Now, if I provide, you have to do the actual result. So when you do this, whenever you are testing this, then only you will be able to update the actual results. I hope everybody is able to understand what is expected result and what is actual result. Expected result, according to the requirements document, you will write this test case. Actual result, during your test execution time, you will open this application, you will enter some user ID, email ID, valid user ID and valid password, and then you will be clicking on login button. If it is valid, you will be getting the home page. If it is invalid, you will be getting an error message. The password that you have entered is incorrect, forgotten password link will be appearing. So this is how you will be doing your manual testing. Now what will happen in the automation? Whatever the steps you have written here, you are going to convert these manual steps into an automation step using some scripting language. That scripting we are going to make use here, Java. So whatever the steps you are writing here, so the same steps you are going to tell the system using Selenium WebDriver. Say that first you need to open the application, enter the user ID, enter the password and click on login button. And once you are done with it, whatever you see here, you are going to capture this information. That means manually what do you do? Manually after you come to this page, you will read this message, or else you will validate whether you will log in, you have logged into the Facebook or not. But if you don't see that, you will see what is happening. So you will verify manually and then you will say whether your test is pass or fail. You will write the actual result. So but if you are doing it in automation, what you have to do is you have to tell your automation program whatever the message it has come. So capture this information and then you will be comparing the expected versus actual. So what will happen? Let us say you will see if at all your user logged in successfully, login successful. If this message is coming, what you are going to do? You will take this value into one variable, expected result, and then you will capture the actual results from the application. Actual result is, let us say you got this message, and then you are going to compare both of them using some logic. What is that condition you will be using? You will be using if condition. How do you write all those things? We will see later. But everything you have to code, then only your automation program will work properly. So this is how you will be doing your automation testing. So whatever the steps you have into manual, you are going to convert them into automation using some scripting language. Here you are using Java, and then once you complete all your steps, you are going to capture the actual result and compare the expected result with actual result, and then you will say whether your test is pass or fail. So now after looking at this, if you look here, you need to understand how do you tell your Selenium WebDriver to interact with, that means to interact with these elements. So these are called elements. If you look at this one, this we call it as edit box or text box. This is also edit box or text box, and this is like you are going to do an operation called click. That means it is a button. So these are all called elements in a web application. If you look at this one we call it as a link, and this is also acting as a button. That means based upon the application, you need to understand how to interact with these elements. To interact with these elements, you need to know one concept called how do you interact with these elements. For that, you need to understand one concept in Selenium WebDriver that we call it as locators. So locators means whenever you are trying to identify any element in the application, you will use certain properties to identify using locators. So there are around let us say there are some 7 common types which are used across 7 to 8. So generally it will be 8, but you no need to tell the number, but just remember all these types. First one is ID, second one is name, and then you will have class name, and then you will have tag name, and then you have link text, and then partial link test, and then you will identify using XPath also. Okay, so some people may use CSS also as an option. What is that? How to do with all these? I will explain you in subsequent classes. But today we will just understand, in this session we will understand how do you identify the elements using the locators. So how many different types of locators we have? We have ID, we have name, we have class name, we have tag name, link text, partial link text, CSS, and also XPath. So XPath is very commonly used one. We will do a separate session on XPath, but we will try to understand first how to identify these locators. So if I say locators, first what you have to do is any application, whatever the application you take, first you have to open the application manually, and now you know how to open this application using automation. So what is that we have done? We have used a method called a driver.get method to invoke the browser. That means first step is done. So what is the next step? I have to enter the user ID. So to enter the user ID, where I have to perform the operation? I have to perform the operation here. So to do that, what you have to do is you have to go to that element, right click, and then there is an option called inspect. So you click on this inspect, and then you will be able to see a HTML page of the application. So if you look at that HTML HTML page of the application, see here there is an option called inspect element. This arrow button you just select and click on this button. See here you will be able to see where that element is in the HTML page. So you can press F12 also in the page. There also you will come to this page, or else you can directly do the right click and inspect element, and after that you select this one and then click on this element. See here there is a property called ID. So what is the ID name? Email. So ID is the property, email is the value, and it has name property also, and it has email also, and whatever the class it has, it is a type of class. Input type is the class, and input text is the class. So like that there are various properties they have given. You can make use of one property which is unique. That means when I say unique, ID should be unique. So what do you mean by unique? So now if I select the same thing for password, see here for password the ID is pass, whereas for the first one the ID is email. That means there is a text box with the ID as email. That means this box will be recognized. There is a text box with the ID as PAS pass. That means this box will be recognized. So you can make use of either name property or ID property. That means whenever you are trying to recognize these elements or identify these elements, you need to see whether those properties are available or not. If the properties are available, you can make use of those properties. Now how do we do that? So what I'll do, first I'll go and click on this, and then if I look at the first element property is ID is equal to email. I'm going to identify the element using ID. So what I'll do, I'll go to my script, driver dot, you have to use a method called find element by. This is the first method. See here, one is find element, another one is find elements. If you have more number of elements, then you will use find elements. We are trying to identify only one element, you will use find element. After that you will have to write by dot, what is that strategy we are using? By dot id. See here, whatever I have told you, all those methods are available here. ID is there, name is there, link text, partial link text, tag name, xpath. So you can make use of any of these properties. We are going to learn all of these in our subsequent videos. First I'm going to select by dot id. And what is that by dot id? That id name is email. So that is what I have identified the element. That means you are able to identify the element. Now I have to pass the data. So press dot and then you will get a method called send keys dot send keys. So when you press send keys, you have to give the value. Let us say I'm going to give the value as abc@gmail.com. You can give valid user ID also, valid email also. I'm just trying to show you how to enter the values. Now, once that is done, that means you are able to tell your script to enter the value here. The next one is for password. How do you do? You will just again click on this and see what is that property. That ID is pass, and then go there. You write the same program, driver dot find element by dot id. Within that you are going to write pass and make sure that you are giving the right value, and then you are going to write send keys, and then let us say some abc or xyz, whatever the password you have. Okay, so we will see how to secure this password at a later point of time. But for now, we are just trying to understand how do you enter the user ID and password. Okay, let me show you this first, and after that, I'm closing this. And then now I will run this program, see what is going to happen. Now run the program and see it will open the Facebook application, and then it will launch the browser Facebook, and then it will enter the user ID and password. So this is how you will make sure that your application is getting interacted. That means whatever the application you are working with, you need to tell your Selenium WebDriver to do the actions using our locators. So this is what your importance. You have to understand the locators concept very well. So how to recognize the elements or how to identify the elements uniquely. So now what is going to happen? See here, the browser is not maximized. See, now I am clicking manually. So I don't want to do that. I wanted to maximize the browser also automatically. How do you do? So you have to go here. Whenever you open the Chrome driver, after initializing the Chrome driver, you write one more step called driver dot manage dot window dot maximize. So this is the method you will use. So that means automatically your browser will be maximized and it will enter the user ID and password. So if you look at this, then you will be able to understand how your automation is working based upon our manual instructions. Now, if I have to click on this login button, so let me write that also. How do you do? First, you have to go to the application and then open the application manually and then identify the locator for that. So login locator, how do you do? You can press F12. If you press F12, you will be able to see the same screen. Like just click on this and then select the element. Automatically you will be able to see that. See here, if you look at here, this button, you see the ID property is there, name property is also there. You can take ID. If you're taking ID property, you have to take this value. If you're taking name property, you have to take this value. So now I'll be writing this using name now. Go back and then driver dot find element by dot name you can write and then login is the name. So just go here and see what is the name. You have to write exactly how they have written the name. You can directly double click here and copy and paste from here. So because it is case sensitive, so whatever the way they have written, you have to write it in the same manner. So now after you write it on a button, you are going to perform an operation called click method. So now close it and then you just close this browser and then run the script one more time. See here, the console, this is called console. If you wanted to clear it, right click on this and then you can click on clear. Automatically the console will be cleared so that you can see the next execution clearly. Now run the program and see what is going to happen. It will enter the user ID and it will enter the password and then it will click on the login button and you will see the error message. See here. So this is the message which is expected because the email ID and the password are incorrect. So this is how you are going to identify the elements on an application using the locators. So in the next session, we are going to see each and every element. How do we do with multiple examples? We will see with all these locators, various examples we are going to see in the next session. Okay, so hope you understand how to identify the elements. Let's say you take any application. Let us say citibank.co.in. Let us say this is your application. Now you wanted to identify the one of the page. Let us say you wanted to identify this element. How do you do? Right click and then inspect. So when you click on inspect, you will be able to see that window. The HTML page will be opened. Just click on this arrow one more time if you wanted to confirm. Just click on this and identify the element. See here, you see there are other properties here. IMG stands for image. IMG stands for image and then title, height, alt. So now you will get a question. Sir, I don't see the ID and name. How are we going to identify the element? That we are going to learn in the next session. Let us say if I have to click on this and I'll try to identify another element. Let me show you that also so that you will understand. Right click and then inspect. So if you click on inspect, then automatically you will be able to see here name is there, ID is there. If the name and ID properties are there, then you will be able to identify the element and then you will be able to use the code to identify the element. Okay, so this is how you are going to identify the elements. You need to interact with all these elements and try to write the script based upon either you might identify the elements using ID or name or class name or tag name, link text, partial link text, class or XPath. Now you will get a question. What is that? How do I know that which property needs to be used? So our objective is to identify the element uniquely. That's the reason you will learn all these locators how to identify. Generally, we use either ID or name, and also you most of the cases you will be identifying the objects using your objects or elements using XPath. So you will come to know all these things in the subsequent sessions. Okay, this is how you will be able to recognize the element and write the basic script so that you will interact with the elements.